So my name is Filip Cnudde. I am Belgian. I live and work in Brussels. I'm doing biotech regulatory affairs for Corteva Agriscience. But one big driver remains, I believe, that this technology is going to be absolutely essential for the challenges that we have also as global citizens, right? For translating it into trying to solve some of these problems that we're all coping with at the moment. Think about climate change, very, very big driver at the moment. If you think about plastics and some of these pollution problems that we're having at the moment, the bio-based economy can only succeed if we have these products adapted for that. And then sustainability, the sustainable development goals, I see plant breeding and biotechnology, one of the key drivers for many of these areas up there. So it remains very exciting. Sometimes what helps a bit to cope with the frustration is to take a couple of steps back, and actually when we look a bit further, especially in Africa most recently, there are not, I would say not glimmers, but real strong sparks of hope that start to arise, where actually we see that the potential of the technology is being explored in a much more kind of welcoming fashion. Plant breeding is coping with quite a lot of technical challenges that inherent to the biology of the crop that makes plant breeding very often a cumbersome, time-consuming effort, right? We're often talking about 10 years of development of a new variety or longer, depending. When we talk about fruit trees and so on, we're talking about whole generations of scientists that work towards a new apple or a new variety being out there. We can go faster, which is a tremendous advantage when we think about meeting needs and bringing some of the lessons learned in other areas and so on. But actually probably the ones that consumers are waiting for the most is new traits, right? And when we think about better nutrition, healthier food, different varieties, different colors, shapes, actually there's no limit on what we can do. The technology in itself is extremely powerful and we're scratching only the surface of it. But it's not going to be an or story, it's going to be a technology, gene editing, that will be integrated into existing programs and plant breeding processes. And we don't start actually off, we have this wonderful tool to play with, how can we use it? But actually we start off the questions we want to solve. Is there a farmer with a problem on the field? Is there a consumer with a clear demand, and how can we meet that? And there we have a very interesting new piece of the puzzle to get us there. And this technology will definitely prove itself in decades to come. The court ruling, 25th of July 2018, I'll never forget the date, it destroyed my holidays. I was on holidays with the family, and what we got there was a surprise, right? An unpleasant surprise, and I knew immediately that was going to have big consequences for our company, but also for the whole sector as a whole. What happened in the aftermath was, like any company would do, is that you see a knee-jerk reactions, and those development programs that are destined for Europe and European crops are being put on hold until there is regulatory clarity and a clear path forward. That's what the business demands. I found it particularly disappointing because I knew immediately that it would be hard to overturn this one, right? What can help is a change in legislation, providing reassurance to developers, clarity, and that's going to take years in Europe. Right, so we are years away from a solution. I'm hopeful we're going to get there, because what we get is something that is actually driving a new wind. We feel in Europe that the old GMO debate, which left so many scars, is slowly being forgotten there, and that there are new people around there that want to have an honest look at this technology. We had actually, during all these years of discussions, the technology experts, scientists, regulators, lawyers having a look at this. Now it's time for policymakers to really make policy around the new technology and combine the need for safety reassurance with a wish for innovation and keeping these jobs in Europe. I don't think Europe is choosing a right way if it wishes to regulate these products of new breeding techniques in the same way as GMOs, right? I experience from my professional job every day what it actually means to be subject to GMO regulatory oversight I can honestly tell you that for 99% of the potential applications we're looking at, it would immediately kill the business case and the enthusiasm for people to explore this technology and bringing these products to the field. It is much too lengthy, it's much too cumbersome, it's too costly, it requires a level of perseverance, expertise, and money that most developers or scientists would not have in the pocket. In order to benefit from the innovation and from having these products on the market, we need to find a much better way on what is actually needed, right? And for that, I would invite us all to take a couple of steps back. Why do we regulate, right? Originally, the biggest argument was that we have a technology we don't really understand very well and we want to be cautious. After 20 years in the GMO area, we can say that with 20 years of safe foods being consumed by trillions of meals, we have the evidence now. So why do we wish as a society to put some money in there? Some people point to public perception and to build reassurances for the public, but I think there are better ways out there rather than a very cumbersome safety assessment. For example, making sure consumers have a choice, having access to the right level of information. For these new technologies and CRISPR products that we have out there, actually there are a fine-tuning of existing tools and technologies that have been out there since the 40s, right? So why would these developers now need to be punished for bringing a tool that is more targeted, right? And make them subject to heavy regulations? It absolutely doesn't make sense. So we could even end up with very absurd situations where you actually don't know which plant was coming from which origin, which product, which process has been used. They could be 100% identical and subject to different laws and subject to different regulatory oversight. Also there we have a situation that we cannot work with. No regulator and also no company can continue in this way. So we have a challenge ahead of us in the coming years to get it right. And I honestly believe that we need to be very careful about finding a good balance this time, right? With regulatory oversight, it's something that is often misunderstood what the actual impact is. It immediately means that you need to add significant layers of extra experts, budgets, and that need to be added to any product development pipeline. It can only be warranted if there is a genuine safety concern that needs to be explored, and I'm not 100% sure I've seen that already with this technology. I've been in Brussels now since 2007. I honestly believe that the sector of agriculture biotechnology has been, because of lack of political courage, has been suffering from a tremendous level of deficit when it comes to political support, right? It has grown into a topic that no politician wants to burn its finger on, that everybody wants to stay away from. And what we have seen is actually a level of inertia that is hard to comprehend until you're in it and you experience it every day. To get out of that, we will need leadership and we will need political courage, right? I believe we have some of the good arguments where this technology can really contribute to some of the big challenges out there. Climate change is one that immediately stands out. Bio-based economy is another one. We're going to have to transform the way that we manufacture things. For that we need a very potent, agile type of agriculture in there, and plant breeders will need to keep up with the needs there. This technology can help bridge that gap. So my key message for the incoming president and for all the future political leaders in the European Commission is that I know that agriculture is probably not the most sexy topic that you or your colleagues having to deal with, but it's really one of the key elements in a European society that brings us and the level of quality and diversity in the food that we consume, and actually contributes to so many sectors out there that can help deal with some of the challenges that keep European citizens awake because of the problems. Climate change is really one of the biggest challenges we're going to have. Agriculture is very often positioned in one of the corners where it's a problem, but it's definitely also one of the sectors that can contribute with solutions. To be able to bring these solutions, we will need technology. Absolute technology being rolled out. And what we're not short of in Europe is the brains. We have some of the best potency there, potential there of young European scientists that are eager to get their knowledge translated into products there. What we need to have is a way to bridge that, where we actually have a political framework and the regulations and the innovations all being merged together. One of the difficulties that I really encourage you to have a look at is finding a good way to merge innovation and regulation. We got it right in a couple of sectors, but I see in so many ways in Europe, definitely when it comes to agriculture, biotechnology, we're struggling into bringing innovation and making sure that regulations are not only a hurdle but also a driver for innovation. Right? We have some ideas around. I encourage you to really have a look at those. And when it comes to new plant breeding techniques, that innovation that is happening there, it's a tremendous revolution, actually spearheaded by some of the biggest European minds. So I really encourage you to let not this potential go to waste in Europe or seeing being utilized, explored, rolled out only in other parts, but that we are part of this exciting journey. Thanks.